If you could only watch one fantasy football video this offseason, it needs to be this one because I'm going to share the biggest mistake that I see drafters make every single year and how we can capitalize on it. Last year, I made so many videos telling you not to draft Ramondre Stevenson, Cam Akers, Dameon Pierce, Najee Harris, and Miles Sanders. All of these running backs were overrated in last year's draft going in rounds 2 through 6. The reason they were so overrated is they were the presumed starter in a situation that was not that great who had other competing backs that we just didn't think about enough. And all 5 of those running backs simply were not that talented. We have to remember running back is easily the least important position. It is the most replaceable, and coaches love to go running back by committee when you think they have a certain starter. So in this video, I'm going to give you 7 running backs that are being drafted way too high for the security that they don't really have in their job. I've ranked them in order from how worried I am that they're going to end up like Dameon Pierce, basically a 1 as I'm not worried at all, and 10 as they won't have a job at the end of the year. So starting it off with the one that I'm least worried about, it's going to be Kenneth Walker. I gave him a 4 out of 10. He's currently going at pick 42 on ESPN. He already didn't return value on his draft capital last year, averaging only 13 points per game, and this year he's going even higher. The main concern is this offense is completely switching up. It's becoming much more spread out under Ryan Grubb, and it's going to be very pass heavy. All throughout college and all throughout the NFL so far, he has shown no ability to run good routes or pass catch at all. Zach Charbonnet, on the other hand, the backup running back, is great at that. On top of that, he's also a big dude who can pass block very easily. So while Kenneth Walker will have his role, he's going to get most of the goal line work. He's still going to be an efficient rusher. It's just not going to be that important in this type of offense. But out of all these guys, I'm the least worried about Kenneth Walker because at least he does have some talent. The next guy, number 6, Ramondre Stevenson, I'm not convinced is talented. He sure as hell made it on this list last year when he was going on the 2-3 turn. This was my biggest conviction stand all last summer. Now he is still going at pick 50 on ESPN. What are we doing, guys? I think his pure upside case is like maybe 13-ish fantasy points, but I see the realm of like 10 to 11 being much more realistic. Out of all the offenses in the league, the Patriots are projected to score the least amount of points. Now with Drake May, if he does have a lot of upside, maybe that changes, but for now it's not looking great. On top of that, they just brought in Antonio Gibson, who is a great pass catcher, and that's what he's been known all throughout college. And the pro is he hasn't been as much of a pass catcher, but I think that's really going to be his role now. So if you're in an offense that's not going to score many touchdowns and you don't have the receiving work, you just have to be very efficient on the ground and score some long touchdowns. That is not his game. He is not a breakaway running back. I gave him a 7 out of 10 just because we've seen time over time that Antonio Gibson fumbles a lot when he does get the full workload. I don't think he ever really takes over the rushing work, so I think at least that is safe for Ramondre. The 5th running back on this list, I gave it to Rashad White. The main reason I'm so concerned is because of his ADP. Pick 31 is insane for 14 points per game as an upside case. Last year was the peak case of touches for Rashad White. He was horrible on the ground, horrible throughout the air. Like, he was very, very inefficient by every advanced metric. One of the worst, most negative rushing running backs in the league. Now they go out of their way to take Bucky Irvin in the draft for, at bare minimum, is probably going to take like 30% of the workload. And what if he is actually talented? This could be just like Cam Akers. I think the medium outcome case is a 70-30 split where he averages almost 13 points per game. I am not paying a 2nd or 3rd round pick for that. Running back 4 on this list is going to be DeAndre Swift, going at pick 64 on ESPN. Once again, way too high. He just came off the best and second best situation in the NFL for a running back. We see what David Montgomery, Jamal Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs all do in Detroit. How come DeAndre Swift can never do it? He's just not a good runner between the tackles. Simple as that. Then he goes to the Eagles, who are one of the best run blocking O-lines as well, and he averages like 13 points per game. I don't know what he's doing, man. And when the Chicago Bears signed him, they said he's going to be playing a lot of gadgety type roles. Roshan Johnson's a good receiving back who pass blocks very well, and Khalil Herbert is a better pure rusher, so that kind of leaves DeAndre Swift in this weird spot. So although pick 64 is much lower than the other guys so far on this list, I think he's the most likely to just be completely out of a job this year so far, so I gave him an 8 out of 10. The 3rd scariest running back this year is going to be Alvin Kamara at pick 34. He's going too high, guys. The absolute only reason he is even remotely draftable this year is because of his pass catching upside. The Saints O-line is literally the worst in the entire NFL. You have a horrible coaching staff, a horrible quarterback. They're not going to score many points. He's not going to get a whole lot of goal line work. He's only getting checkdowns. With his age, he's become much less efficient, much less explosive. What if Kendre Miller finally gets more work? He was hurt for a lot of last year. It may not make sense yet because he's still Alvin Kamara in our heads, a great running back, but think of like Dalvin Cook last year. I wasn't completely convinced that he was washed, but man, he's pretty washed, and the NFL knew that. And normally, I do like the older guys, but particularly in wide receivers like Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, those types of guys, Travis Kelce, I don't mind. But like a running back like this in Alvin Kamara's situation where there's a clear decline, I'm out. So with all this factored in and the fact that he's going to pick 34, I also gave Alvin Kamara an 8 out of 10. Now we move on to the 2nd worst running back in terms of how safe their job is relative to their ADP. This man is going at pick 26. It is James Cook. He's basically in the Alvin Kamara role without the reception upside. He's not even catching that many passes. Then they bring in a rookie running back who is extremely pro-ready in Ray Davis. He's 5'8", 220 pounds. All they want to do with him is run the ball in 3rd and 1s and on the goal line. He's going to get the important touches that score a lot of fantasy points. Then on top of that, the other running back in the room, oh wait, he's a quarterback? It's Josh Allen, who scored 15 rushing touchdowns last year. I believe James Cook's rushing touchdown over-under this season is 3.5. That is pathetic for a running back. And maybe he survives by getting 4 to 5 targets a game, but the upside case for him, again, is 13 points. The O-line blocked very well for him last year, but he did not play well on his own. His vision was bad, and his advanced metrics were very bad. So I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. I am very worried that he could just not have the role a lot of people think, because pick 26, are you kidding me? There's no way he's going 2 full rounds ahead of Kenneth Walker. How? But number 1 on this list, and this guy genuinely, we may never speak his name again after the season, it's Zamir White. How many times we have this exact same thing? A guy who has literally never produced. He's been in the league 2 years. He has 1 total touchdown. He's done absolutely nothing. They're bringing Alexander Madison with him, who's not great, but I think he can still cut into the workload. And then they draft a running back in Dylan Laube, who caught 68 passes for 700 receiving yards in college. He is going to be the receiving back on all receiving downs. Then we factor in how bad the Raiders were last year. Josh Jacobs averaged 13.9 points per game when he played, and I think Josh Jacobs is obviously a better running back. We know this offense is not going to be great, and the little red zone opportunity they have, they're going to make a lot of time using Brock Bowers and especially Devontae Adams. So if he's never shown the ability to be efficient or score touchdowns or catch passes, how on earth are we drafting him at pick 62 on ESPN? Tell me this doesn't exactly scream what Miles Sanders was going through last year, a whole bunch of crappy running backs on a team, and then Chuba takes over. So for that, I gave him a 9 out of 10. I would not be surprised at all if we literally never heard of him again after this year.